The Office is an American mockumentary sitcom television series that depicts the everyday work lives of office employees in Scranton, Pennsylvania branch of the fictional Dunder Mifflin Paper Company. It aired on NBC from March 24, 2005 to May 16, 2013, spanning a total of 9 seasons. It's based on the 2001 to 2003 BBC series of the same name created by Ricky Gervais and Stephen Merchant. It was adapted for American television by Greg Daniels, a veteran writer for Saturday Night Live, King of the Hill, and The Simpsons. It was co-produced by Daniels Deedle D Productions and Revell Productions, later Shine America, in association with Universal Television. The original executive producers were Daniels, Gervais, Merchant, Howard Klein, and Ben Silverman, with numerous others being promoted in later seasons. Like its British counterpart, the series was filmed in a single-camera setup without a studio audience or a laugh track to simulate the look of an actual documentary. The series debuted on NBC at the mid-season replacement and aired 201 episodes for its run. The Office originally featured Steve Carell, Rainn Wilson, John Krasinski, Jenna Fischer, and B.J. Novak as the main cast. However, the series experienced numerous changes to the ensemble cast during its run. Notable stars outside the original main cast included Ed Helms, Amy Ryan, Mindy Kaling, Craig Robinson, James Spader, Ellie Kemper, and Catherine Tate. The Office was met with mixed reviews during its first short season, but the following seasons, particularly those featuring Carell, received significant acclaim from television critics as the show's characters, content, structure, and tone diverged considerably from the British version. These seasons were included on several critics' year-end top TV series lists, winning several awards such as Peabody Award in 2006, 2 Screen Actors Guilds, a Golden Globe Award for Carell's performance, and 4 Primetime Emmy Awards, including 1 for Outstanding Comedy Series in 2006. The 8th season was criticised for a decline in quality. Many saw Carell's departure in Season 7 as a contributing factor. However, the 9th and final season ended the series' run with generally positive reviews. The series finale, which originally aired on May 16, 2013, was viewed by an estimate of 5.69 million viewers and garnered critical acclaim. In 2016, Rolling Stone named The Office as one of the top 100 greatest television shows of all time. Now, what more can I say about the show? I didn't think I would actually like it at first. I thoroughly enjoyed the British version, and generally I prefer British comedy over American sitcoms, as they tend to be too moralistic and goody-goody, if you will, where I like my comedy just to be raw and raunchy and just have a good laugh. I don't need a good all-round story and character development. In saying that though, this show just seemed to do it differently for me. Now, the first season was pretty much a rip-off of the British version, with Steve Carell carrying the show as the weaker version of David Brent from the original. But it was then in Season 2 that the show really found its own unique voice, and it became its own constitution, if you will. It was here that I really fell in love with the show. It was witty, introspective, superbly written characters, as well as fantastically acted, particularly by the leads. I always loved the way the show was underdone, not over the top, not trying to be something it wasn't, just a plain dull look at quirky people working 9 till 5, living their ordinary lives, so relatable, just so down to earth. Of course, one of my favourite storylines, as I'm sure it was many people's, was the relationship between Jim and Pam. The chemistry between John Krasinski and Jenna Fischer was off the wall. They were so believable, I even found it hard to believe they weren't a real couple in real life. From the start of will they, won't they, to them eventually getting married, to them having a child, to them having marital problems, it was just wonderful to follow this journey with these 2 actors. According to Jenna Fischer, the series was used as an unusual casting process that did not even involve a script. Instead, the producers would ask actors several questions, and they would respond as characters, as if they were auditioning for. Now, Krasinski had attended school with B.J. Novak, who was of course cast already in as the role of Ryan. The 2 were best friends at school. Fisher prepared for audition by looking as boring as possible, creating an original Pam hairstyle. In an interview with NPR's Fresh Air, Fisher recalled the late stages of the audition process for Pam and Jim, with the producers partnering the different potential Pams and Jims, 4 of each, together to gauge their chemistry. When Fisher finished her scene with Krasinski, he told her that she was his favourite Pam, so which she replicated and said he was her favourite Jim. Now, their love story never gets schmaltzy, and it really captures their real life in such a perfect way. Now, obviously watching the show some 15 years after it originally started, you'd think it may be somewhat dated, but I never found it dated at all. Yes, maybe there are some references of the time, but in terms of humour and content, it never really goes off the mark. Now let's talk Michael Scott. Steve Carell is a magnificent actor, versatile with comedy, and his timing is bar none. Some say, of course, that Michael was the backbone of the show, which I would agree with, but in the same breath, a lot of people said that when he left, the show dropped. I don't agree though. I quite enjoyed the way the show deviated in season 8 and 9 and included the whole cast as now the sort of main central character. In saying that though, of course, Steve Carell brought a huge presence to the show. There were times his character made you laugh so much, and there were times I really felt sorry for him. But there were also times he just pissed me off, frankly. But never in a way you'd want him to get off your screen, just as part of the brilliant performance Steve brings to this well-intentioned man, whose attempts at humour, while seemingly innocent himself, often offend and annoy his peers and employers, and in some situations lead to reprimanding from his superiors. Now, originally, Paul Giamatti was cast in the role of Michael Scott, but the actor declined. Martin Short, Hank Azaria, and Bob Odenkirk were reported to be interested in the part. In January 2004, Variety reported that Steve Carell of The Daily Show with Jon Stewart was in talks to play the role. At the time, he was already committed to another NBC mid-season replacement comedy, Come to Papa, but the series was soon cancelled, allowing his full commitment to The Office. Carell later stated that he had only seen about half of the original episodes of the British series before he auditioned, as he did not want to continue watching for fear that he would start copying Gervais' characterizations. Now, probably my favourite character throughout the show was, of course, Dwight Schrute, played here by the brilliant Rainn Wilson. He is a salesman and the assistant to the regional manager, a fictional title created by Michael. He has some of the best scenes, and he shows his versatility in terms of delivery and slapstick humour. He's just so offbeat and offhand that he just makes the show absolutely hilarious, and for me, he has some of the best parts in the whole show. I, of course, also enjoyed the supporting cast, all perfectly cast in their respective roles, just regular everyday people doing their best to provide for their lives. I love the improv work, particularly from this cast. From Angela, the uptight accountant who has the illicit affair with Dwight, and they are perfectly made for each other. Angela Kinsey, who originally auditioned for the role of Pam, was cast perfectly as the role of Angela Martin in the show. And who can forget Kevin Malone, played by Brian Baumgartner, a lovable, dim-witted man who revels in juvenile humor and frequently indulges in gambling, and Oscar Martinez, played by Oscar Nunez, who is intelligent and cultured but often patronizing, and whose homosexuality and Hispanic heritage make him a frequent target of Michael's unintentional off-color comments. Then, of course, there's Stanley Hudson, played by Leslie David Baker, who cannot stand Michael's constant references to black American heritage. He also doesn't like to take part in time-wasting meetings and often solves crossword puzzles or sleeps during them. The eccentric quality assurance representative Creed Bratton, played by Creed Bratton, who has a mysterious criminal history. The matron saleswoman of The Office, Phyllis Lappin, played by Phyllis Smith, who dates and then marries Bob Vance from Vance Refrigeration, a company whose office is across the hall from Dunder Mifflin. Later, we have the addition of Andy Bernard, played here by the brilliant Ed Helms, a salesman from the Stamford, Connecticut branch of Dunder Mifflin, who is introduced in Season 3, who transfers to Scranton branch after the two offices merge. The shallow and talkative customer service representative, Kelly Kapoor, played by Mindy Kaling, the promiscuous alcoholic supply relations representative, Meredith Palmer, played by Kate Flannery, human resources representative, Tony Flenderson, played by Paul Lebestin, who is loathed and often the target of abuse by Michael. Warehouse foreman, Daryl Flippin, played by Craig Robertson, a warehouse dock worker, and Pam's fiance, Roy Anderson, played by David Denman, who is fired in the third season for attacking Jim, and the vice president for regional sales of Dunder Mifflin, Jane Levinson, played by Melora Hardin, who later becomes Michael's love interest. Towards the end of Season 5, the bubbly and naive Erin Hannon, played by Ellie Kemper, is introduced as Pam's replacement at reception, following Pam's short stint at Michael Scott's paper company and the subsequent move to sales. A story arc at the end of Season 4 has Holly Flax, played by Amy Ryan, transferred to an office as Toby's replacement. She becomes a love interest for Michael, as they share very similar personality traits. Joe Bennett, played by Kathy Bates, is the CEO of Sabre, the company that takes over Dunder Mifflin, and Gabe Lewis, played by Zach Woods, is introduced in the middle of Season 6 as a Sabre employee who is assigned to Dunder Mifflin Scranton branch as a regional director of sales. In Season 7, Bennett's friend, Nertley Bedtram, Catherine Tate, is interviewed to replace Scott and later serves as a replacement regional manager for Bernard in Season 8, after Robbie California, James Spader, has become the new CEO of Sabre. In Season 9, Clark Gregg, played by Clark Duke, and Pete Miller, played by Jake Lacey, join as new customer service representatives who attempt to catch up on the ignored customer service complaints that Kelly has neglected while working at Dunder Mifflin. Clark is later moved to sales. From the opening theme tune to the authentic feeling that we are watching this documentary lay out before our eyes, the show, though originally created by Ricky Gervais and Stephen Merchant, became its own unique show. It developed its own soul, if you were. And it's amazing for me that a show over 9 seasons held my interest as much as it did. You really invest in these characters as you go along for the ride with them, as you see their personal interactions taking place every day as they go to work. Who would think this concept would work so well, that just watching ordinary people would be so fascinating and so much fun, and it would be just downright down to earth and funny? I was so sad when I finally finished the show, as it had become such a familiar evening viewing for myself. It always gave me a little perk at the end of the day, and especially during the pandemic's lockdown. That's actually when I started the show, and it really sort of helped lift my spirits during that most awful of times. I'd highly recommend anyone to watch the show and at least give it a chance, as I really don't believe you'll be sorry. It's so difficult to rate a whole show over 9 seasons, but that's what I've endeavoured to do in this review, as this show will always remain a very special TV series for me. The Office, as a show in its entirety, gets a 9 out of 10.